Before we start, if you enjoy the story, please leave a like and check if you're subscribed. The viewport shattered inward 3 seconds before Silas Barrett could kill the engines. Glass and pressure exploded through the cockpit. His hands moved without thought, training overriding the screaming alarms. He yanked the manual release, tucked his head as the diplomatic vessel plowed into rust-red earth at 200 kilometers per hour. Metal screamed. The world became grinding chaos, his body slamming against bulkheads. Something hot sliced across his ribs. The crash webbing gave, sending him tumbling through what used to be the corridor. Darkness swallowed the noise. He came to with dirt in his mouth and blood running warm down his side. Emergency lighting bathed the wreckage in sickly amber. The rear third of the ship was gone, leaving a ragged wound open to alien sky, the color of old bruises. Barrett, a voice called from the debris. Zara emerged from behind a collapsed bulkhead, red skin streaked with darker blood. The twin horns curving back from her temples had scored deep gouges in the ceiling panels. She moved with predator's efficiency despite the gash along her shoulder. "You alive?" she asked. Debatable. The ship groaned, settling. Zara was already moving through wreckage, checking corners. Her black hair had come loose, falling across shoulders built for violence. Even injured, she radiated controlled Lephalia. "Captain Oakes," Silas called out. Zara shook her head once. Their mission commander was dead. The beacon? Silas reached the communications array. Sparks spit from severed connections. He pulled an access panel, swore at the melted components. Dead. Might jury rig something, but it'll take a day. Maybe two. Zara's amber eyes tracked to the torn hull opening. The purple sky beyond was darkening. She inhaled slowly. "Toxicity?" Silas asked. "Pockets of it. The winds shift. We could be breathing sulfur compounds within hours." "What else?" Her jaw tightened. "Predators. 3 different species within a kilometer. They know we're here." They worked in efficient silence, salvaging supplies. Silas had only been assigned to this mission 4 days ago. Zara had been with Captain Oakes for 6 months. Now they were strangers united by survival. He watched her as they worked. Her people, the Ashkari, were striking in ways that made humans uncomfortable. Red skin, black horns, builds that spoke to warrior culture. The physical similarities to ancient human demon mythology had caused problems during first contact. Zara caught him looking. "Problem, Barrett?" "Just thinking your people got unlucky with the genetic lottery where human superstition's concerned. Your people got unlucky with fragility. You're bleeding through your shirt." He glanced down. The gash in his side had soaked through the gray fabric. "Deal with it now," she said. "I need you functional." He stripped off his ruined shirt and opened the medical kit. The wound was ugly but shallow. He irrigated it with antiseptic, sealed it with synthetic skin. When he looked up, Zara was watching him. "Your species heals quickly," she said. "Not quickly enough." She almost smiled. Then she was back to work, and together they established a rough camp. As the alien sun set behind mountains that looked, "I think this fever really pushed off with the factory of classically seeded and lovely pellets of their sharp chunk of dust is a fire-going, wide, fun, creepy song." Zara had disappeared outside, returning with news written in the tension of her shoulders. 3 predator trails circling our position. One's curious enough to test our defenses after dark. Silas checked his sidearm. 14 shots. "We take watch in shifts," he said. "No." He looked up. Zara stood backlit by the fire, shadows playing across features that were simultaneously fierce and unsettlingly beautiful. "No," he repeated. "I'll take the watch. All of it." "That's not sustainable. You're injured." "Silas," she interrupted. "You don't understand. There are complications." "What kind?" Zara turned away, shoulders drawing tight. "My people don't take partners. Not anymore. Not for 3 generations." "The cultural isolation protocols, right?" "It's not cultural," Zara said. She turned back, and there was something raw in her expression. It's biological. Our mating cycles, they kill our partners. Every single one. The fire popped in the silence. Outside, something howled. I don't understand, Scylla said. My cycle is beginning, Zara said. Each word came out precise, controlled. The stress, the injuries, they've triggered it early. I have maybe 12 hours before it takes full hold. And then I become something else for 72 hours. The intensity, the physical demands, no species we've encountered can survive it. My grandmother killed 3 mates before the Ashkari collectively decided isolation was preferable to murder. Silas processed this. You need me to restrain you, he said, or keep your distance. But this planet won't allow distance. Separation means death from predators. And restraints, she gestured at their limited supplies. Anything strong enough will cut off circulation or cause injury. There's no good option. She met his eyes across the fire, and he saw fear there. Real fear from a woman who'd probably stared down combat without flinching. 72 hours, Silas said. 3 days where you'll need to survive both my cycle and whatever this planet throws at us. The howling drew closer. Silas stood, checking their barrier, buying time to think. His side ached. His body reminded him he'd just survived a crash that had killed him. He worked all along the way, all along the time. He looked at her standing there, firelight painting her red skin in shades of bronze and shadow, her horns cutting elegant curves against the darkness. The idea of leaving her to face her cycle alone while predators circled felt wrong. How long until it starts? He asked. 12 hours, maybe less. Silas checked his chronometer, then their supplies. Then we've got 12 hours to make this shelter defensible, he said. After that, we'll figure it out. Silas, you're not hearing me. My cycle will kill you. Maybe, he said. Or maybe human biology is different. Has an Ashkari ever tried with a human? No. We stopped taking mates before first contact. Then you don't actually know what would happen. Zara stared at him. That's not a risk worth taking, she said. I didn't survive a crash landing just to die from playing it safe. He met her eyes. 12 hours. We make this place defensible. We rest. And when your cycle hits, we deal with it. Together. You're insane. I'm stubborn. There's a difference. For the first time since the crash, something like hope flickered across Zara's features. It died quickly, buried under fear, but he'd seen it. You don't know what you're volunteering for, she said quietly. Then I guess I'll find out. Outside, something massive moved through the darkness, and their first night on the planet began. If you want to be a soul, Silas woke to the sound of claws scraping metal. He rolled onto his feet, sidearm in hand. Dawn light filtered through the makeshift barrier. The scraping came again, deliberate, testing. Zara was already at the barrier, peering through a gap in the plating. She'd stripped down to a sleeveless undershirt. Sweat gleamed on her shoulders despite the cool morning air. How close? Silas asked. 10 meters. Reptilian, quadruped. It's been circling for an hour. Silas moved to her side, caught his first glimpse. Scaled hide the color of dried blood, 6 eyes, jaw that looked like it could crack steel. Zara's hand rested on the barrier, fingers drumming a nervous rhythm. That was new. Silas noticed the flush high on her cheeks, the way her pupils had dilated. How are you feeling? He asked. Like my skin's on fire, and my blood's too hot for my veins, she said. Her voice had gone rough. It's accelerating. The creature slammed against their barrier. Silas raised his sidearm, sighted through the gap, fired twice. The second shot caught it in the eyes. It shrieked and bolted. He turned to find Zara watching him with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. Her amber eyes tracked over him like she was cataloging every detail. We need to secure the communications array, he said. Get that beacon operational. Right, Zara said. She didn't move. Zara? She blinked, shook her head. They gathered tools. Talk to me, Zara said suddenly. I need the distraction. What do you want to know? Why diplomatic corps? You move like military. I was. 8 years, special operations. Got tired of the violence. How much longer? She asked. Hour? Maybe 2? I don't have 2 hours. He looked back to find her braced against the hull, breathing hard. Her skin had darkened to deep crimson, muscles standing out in sharp definition. Keep working, she said through clenched teeth. Silas worked faster, connecting circuits, testing power flow. Tell me about the cycle, he said. Hormonal cascade, Zara said. Her voice had dropped half an octave. Increases strength by 40%, pain tolerance, aggression, and the need to mate. It's not rational, Silas. I won't be myself. Silas connected the final circuit. The beacon hummed to life. Done, he said. Signals transmitting. He crawled out, found Zara pressed against the far wall. Her entire body trembled. When she looked at him, her pupils had blown wide, nearly consuming the amber. How long? He asked. She pushed off the wall. You need to leave. We both know that's not an option. Silas, we go back to the shelter, we seal it, and we deal with this. You'll die, maybe, or maybe I'll surprise you. He moved toward her. When you got close enough, she grabbed his wrist. The strength in her grip would have broken bone if she wanted. Last chance to run, she said. Not running. The fear faded from her expression, replaced by something fierce and hungry. She pulled him closer, close enough that he could feel the heat radiating off her skin. I'll try to be gentle, she whispered. Don't. Her hand came up to his chest, fingers spreading over his heart. You're afraid, she said. Terrified. But I'm still here. They made it back to the shelter as the last of her control fractured. Silas sealed the barrier, turned to find Zara standing in the center, breathing hard. Silas, she said, and her voice was barely recognizable. I'm here. She moved then, fast. One moment she was across the space, the next she had him against the hull, her mouth on his with bruising intensity. He tasted copper and hate and something electric. Her hands were everywhere, pulling at his clothes with a desperation that bordered on violence. He let her, his own hands finding the heated silk of her skin. When she pulled back to tear off her undershirt, he saw the changes. Her muscles stood out in sharp relief, her skin darker crimson. Beautiful, he breathed. She made a sound low in her throat, pushed him down onto the makeshift bedding. Her weight settled over him, pinning him. Last chance, she said. Instead of answering, he pulled her down into another kiss. She growled against his mouth, her hands mapping his body with possessive intensity. Then her cycle took her completely. What followed was intensity beyond anything Silas had experienced. She was strength and hunger and fierce need. He matched her as best he could. Human endurance pushed to limits he hadn't known existed. When she bit his shoulder hard enough to draw blood, he gripped her hips harder. When her nails scored down his back, he pulled her closer. Hours blurred together. She was insatiable, demanding, overwhelming. But somewhere in the fever of it, he found rhythm. His body adapted, gave her what she needed. Human resilience, focused on surviving this. And more than surviving, meeting her. Matching her. Dawn came eventually. Silas lay on his back, breathing hard, every muscle screaming. Zara was draped across his chest, her breathing finally evening out. She lifted her head, and her eyes were her own again. Amber with recognition. You're alive, she said. Wonder threaded through her voice. Told you I was stubborn, she laughed. Actually laughed. Then her expression became serious. This isn't over. That was just the first wave. How long until the next? 6 hours, maybe 8. Silas nodded, exhausted but functional, bruised but whole. Then we rest while we can. Shara steadied him like he was a puzzle she couldn't solve. No one has ever survived this, she said quietly. Maybe they weren't human. She traced a finger down his chest. Maybe. she agreed. Then, softer, thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've still got 2 more days of this. 2 more days, she repeated. Something heated flickered in her eyes. Can you handle that? Silas pulled her closer. Guess we'll find out together. Outside, something roared. The planet's predators were circling again. Silas reached for his sidearm. Zara's breathing had already evened into sleep. He let himself relax. As his eyes drifted closed, he realized that somehow, impossibly, they might actually survive this. Both of them. The second wave hit harder than the first. Silas had managed maybe 4 hours of sleep when Zara's weight shifted on top of him. Her skin had gone furnace hot again, muscles coiling with renewed tension. He opened his eyes to find her watching him with that predatory focus, pupils dilated wide. Already? He managed. She didn't answer with words. Her mouth found his throat, teeth scraping over his pulse point. Her hands pinned his wrists above his head with strength that left no room for argument. This time lasted longer. She was less frantic but more demanding, taking her time with him. Silas matched her as best he could, human endurance tested again. When she finally collapsed against him, both slick with sweat, the alien sun had climbed halfway to zenith. We need water, Silas said once he could form words. Zara nodded against his chest but didn't move. There's a stream, she said finally. 200 meters east, they dressed in what remained of their clothes and unsealed the barrier. The planet's heat hit them immediately. Silas kept his sidearm ready as they picked their way through rust-colored rocks toward running water. The stream was shallow but clean, cutting through a ravine lined with strange vegetation. Zara knelt at the water's edge and drank deeply. Silas kept watch, scanning their surroundings. Movement, he said quietly. Northridge. Jara was on her feet instantly. She followed his sightline to where something large moved between rocks. The curious one from this morning, she said. It's brought friends. Silas counted 3 shapes now, circling their position with patient malice. We need to move, he said. They filled their salvaged containers and started back. The creatures paced them, staying just out of weapon range. Halfway back to the shelter, Zara stumbled. He caught her arm, steadied her. Her skin had gone hot again, breathing changed. Not yet, she said, through clenched teeth. Too soon. How long? Maybe an hour. The creatures sensed weakness. They moved closer. Silas fired a warning shot. It snarled but didn't retreat. Run, Silas said. I can fight. Not in this condition. Run. I'll cover you. Zara's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. She took off toward the shelter with impressive speed. Silas backed after her, weapon trained on the predators. The lead creature lunged. Silas fired, caught it in the shoulder. It screamed and fell back, but the other 2 split and came from different angles. He took one down with 2 shots, but the third was too fast. It hit him like a freight train. Silas went down hard, his sidearm skittering across rocks. Claws raked his chest, tore through fabric and skin. He got his arm up just in time to keep jaws from his throat. Then Zara was there. She hit the creature from the side with devastating force. They tumbled together in a tangle of limbs and scales. Her cycle-enhanced strength let her match it blow for blow. She got her hands around its throat, squeezed, bones cracked. The creature went limp. Zara stood over it, chest heaving, hands still clenched into fists. Her eyes had gone completely dark, pupils consuming all the amber. When she turned to Silas, there was nothing human in that gaze. Zara, he said carefully. She stalked toward him. Blood from the creature streaked her arms and chest. Her movements had gone purely predatory. It's me, he said. It's Silas. She dropped to her knees beside him, grabbed his torn shirt. For a moment, he thought she might finish what the creature had started. Then her head dipped, and she inhaled deeply against his neck. Recognition flickered in her eyes. Hurt, she said. The word came out rough, barely formed. I'm okay. No, She touched the claw marks across his chest, careful despite the trembling in her hands. She grabbed him and pulled him to his feet. They made it back to the shelter with her practically carrying him, cycle strength making it easy. Inside, she sealed the barrier with shaking hands, then turned on him with intensity that made his pulse spike. But instead of pinning him down, she pushed him toward their medical supplies. Fix, she demanded. Silas cleaned the claw marks while she watched, pacing like a caged animal. The wounds were deep but not critical. He sealed them with the last of their synthetic skin. The moment he finished, Jara was on him. This time was different. The cycle had her completely, but underneath the hunger was something else. Possession. Protection. She touched the sealed wounds with careful intensity, then claimed his mouth with bruising force. What followed was more intense than the previous waves. She was stronger, faster, more demanding, but Silas found himself matching her, not just with endurance but with understanding. He learned the sounds that meant pleasure versus pain, the touches that gentled her versus the ones that drove her higher. Hours disappeared into sensation and heat, and the sound of her saying his name like a prayer and a curse. Eventually, she collapsed against him, utterly spent. Silas lay beneath her, cataloging damage. More bruises, more bite marks, muscles screaming. More bruises, more bite marks, more blushing. Bite marks. Her eyes were clearer now, amber starting to show through the darkness. "You killed one," she said quietly. "You killed two, to protect you." "Yeah." She touched his chest again, fingers tracing the sealed claw marks. "No one has ever survived 2 days of this, let alone stayed conscious enough to fight off predators." "Human stubbornness," Silas said. She almost smiled. Then her expression shifted. "There's something else. Something I'm feeling that I shouldn't be." "What?" "A bond. It's not just physical anymore, Silas. I can feel you. Your emotions, your state of being." He felt it too, had been feeling it since the second wave. A connection, deeper than touch. "Is that normal?" he asked. "I don't know. There's no data on successful matings, but I think your survival is creating something new. Something my species has never experienced because our partners never lived long enough for the bond to form." Outside, something exploded. They both froze. The sound came again, not natural, not predators. Weapons fire. Silas was moving before he finished processing, grabbing his sidearm. Zara was already at the barrier, peering through gaps. "Ship," she said, "but not rescue. They're firing on our beacon." "Who?" "I don't know, but they're destroying our distress signal." Silas looked through the gap, saw a small craft hovering above the wreckage. "The markings were wrong, the approach vector all wrong. Someone doesn't want us found," he said. The ship fired again, and the beacon's signal went dark. Then the craft turned toward their shelter, weapons hot. "They're coming for us," Jara said. Silas checked his rounds. 6 shots left. Not nearly enough. "How long until the next wave?" he asked. 4 hours, maybe 5. Can you fight before then?" She met his eyes, and he saw the same calculation he was making. They were outgunned, low on ammunition, exhausted from the cycle. "Yes," she said simply. "Then we make them regret finding us." The ship's loading ramp descended, and armed figures emerged. Silas counted 4, maybe 5. Their armor was unmarked, professional. Assassins, not random pirates. Someone had sent professionals to finish what the crash hadn't. Zara's hand found his, squeezed once. "Together?" she asked. "Together." The moon's surface was pocked with craters and ancient lava tubes. Silas brought the stolen ship down inside one of the larger caves, killing the engines as soon as they touched ground. The hull pinged and settled in the sudden silence. Zara was already out of her seat, skin flushed dark crimson, breathing hard through her teeth. "How long did we have?" Silas asked. "We're out of time." She crossed the small cockpit in 2 strides, grabbed him by the front of his torn shirt, and pulled him from the pilot seat. Her strength during the cycle was startling even now, after 2 days of experiencing it. Ship sealed? She asked, voice already going rough. Sealed. Good. She kissed him hard enough to bruise, all teeth and hunger and desperate need. Silas matched her intensity, hands finding the heated silk of her skin. They didn't make it to the crew quarters, just collapsed onto the deck plating, tearing at what remained of their clothes. This wave is different again. Zara was wilder, less controlled, the fight with the assassins having stirred something primal in her. But Silas had learned her patterns now, knew when to yield and when to push back, when to gentle and when to match her ferocity. Hours blurred together in the dim light of the cockpit. At some point he became aware of pain, not from her, but from his own injuries, the claw marks on his chest pulling with every movement. Zara noticed, made a sound low in her throat, adjusted her position to avoid the sealed wounds. Even lost in the cycle, she was trying to protect him. That realization did something to him, cracked open something he hadn't known was closed. He pulled her closer, buried his face against her neck, breathed in the scent of her, copper and heat, and something uniquely Zara. Mine, she growled against his ear, and it should have sounded possessive, but instead felt like a promise. Yours. He agreed. When she finally collapsed against him, utterly spent, Silas lay on the cold deck plating and tried to remember how to breathe. Every muscle screamed, new bruises layered over old ones. His shoulder throbbed where she'd bitten him again. He'd never felt more alive. Zara stirred against his chest, lifted her head. Her eyes were clearer now, more amber than black. We need to talk about what happened, she said quietly. The assassins, everything. The bond, the conspiracy, what we do next. Silas nodded, shifted so they could sit up. The crew quarters were small but functional. He found a medical kit, began tending to Zara's shoulder where the energy weapon had caught her. The wound was shallow but needed attention. Tell me about the bond, he said as he worked. What exactly are you feeling? Zara was quiet for a moment, eyes distant. Your emotional state, your physical condition. When you were fighting that predator, I felt your fear spike, felt the moment you got hurt. And during the cycle, she paused. I can feel what you're feeling. Not thoughts exactly, but emotions. Sensations. Started after the second wave. It's getting stronger. This shouldn't be possible. Ashkari bonds require both partners to survive the full cycle. No one has. Not in generations. But we are surviving. You are surviving, Zara corrected. Against all biological probability, human resilience is letting you endure what killed every other species we've encountered. Silas finished sealing her shoulder, sat back, and that scares someone enough to kill us for it. Not just someone. The assassin said factions, plural, both human and alien. What do they have to lose? Zara stood, paced the small space. Even exhausted, she moved with that predatory grace. The Ashkari isolation has shaped galactic politics for 3 generations. We're feared, respected, kept at arm's length. Our warrior culture, our appearance, our lethal biology, it all creates a specific dynamic. Trade agreements are structured around our limitations. Military alliances account for our lack of intimate partnerships with other species. And if that changes, everything changes. If humans and Ashkari can bond, can build the kind of connection we're developing, she turned to face him, we become a potential power block. United Earth and the Ashkari territories would shift the entire political landscape. Silas processed this, fitting pieces together. So they sabotaged our ship, hoping the crash or the planet would kill us. When that failed, they sent professionals to finish the job. And they'll send more. How many more? As many as it takes. Silas checked the ship's nav computer, scanned for nearby traffic. Nothing yet, but that wouldn't last. The assassins would have sent a signal before they died, or their ship would have automatic distress protocols. We need allies, he said. People who want this change, who'll protect us long enough to prove the bond is real. Who? We don't know who to trust. We trust the science. medical facilities, research stations, places that care more about discovery than politics. Jara considered this. There's a xenobiology research station in the outer colonies. Independent funding, no political affiliations. If we could reach them, they could document the bond, publish findings before anyone could suppress them. It's risky. We'd be exposing ourselves, making our location known. Staying hidden is riskier, Silas countered. They'll find us eventually. Better to control the narrative, get the truth out before they can silence us. Zara crossed to him, took his face in her hands. Her skin was still warm, cycle not quite finished. You understand what you're signing up for. This isn't just about surviving the next wave. This is committing to changing the entire political structure of known space. I committed when I volunteered to help you through the first night. She kissed him, softer than before, almost tender. You're insane, she said against his mouth. I'm stubborn. There's a difference. She laughed, the sound rough but genuine. Then her expression shifted, pupils dilating again. How long? Silas asked. Maybe 2 hours. This is the last wave, the final peak before the cycle ends. Then we use those 2 hours to plot a course, send an encrypted message to the research station, and prepare for whatever comes next. And after that, we finish this together. Zara's hands tightened on his face, pulling him into another kiss. This one held promise and heat, and the beginning of something neither of them had names for yet. Outside the ship, in the cold vacuum of space, enemy vessels were probably already searching. Inside, two people who should never have survived each other were preparing to reshape the galaxy. 2 more hours until the final wave. 2 more hours to plan their revolution. The final wave broke over them like a storm. Jara took him with an intensity that eclipsed everything that had come before. This was the culmination, the peak of 3 days that had tested every limit Silas thought he had. She was fierce and wild and utterly magnificent. But there was something else now. The bond they built had become tangible. He could feel her pleasure as his own, her satisfaction when he matched her with him, her fierce joy when he pulled her closer instead of away. Hours dissolved. Time became meaningless. There was only sensation and connection, and the sound of her saying his name like a benediction. When it finally ended, when the cycle released its grip and left Zara trembling and spent in his arms, the silence felt profound. 72 hours, the first successful mating in 3 generations of Ashkari history, and he was alive. She lifted her head from his chest, amber eyes clear and bright and filled with wonder. It's over, she whispered. We survived. You survived. Silas, you actually survived. She touched his face with trembling fingers, like she was memorizing him. How do you feel? He asked. Like myself again, but different, better, complete. A proximity alarm shattered the moment. They were moving before conscious thought, racing to the cockpit. Silas dropped into the pilot's seat, scanned the readouts. 3 ships, he said. Military configuration, heading straight for us. The assassin's backup, or someone who intercepted our message? Zara leaned over his shoulder, studying the display. Wait, she said. Those transponder codes, they're Ashkari. Your people. They must have detected the beacon before it was destroyed. She straightened. This could go very badly. The comm crackled to life. Unidentified vessel, this is Commander Ishara of the Ashkari Defense Fleet. Prepare to be boarded. Zara's breath caught. Silas felt her recognition through the bond. You know her? He asked. She's my sister. Zara was at the comm instantly. Ishara, it's Zara. Don't fire, we're coming out. Silence. Then a voice, sharp with shock and relief. Zara? We thought you were dead. The diplomatic vessel was sabotaged. We survived the crash, but there's more. We need to talk, face to face. Another pause. Prepare for docking, and Zara, you're not alone in there. Who's with you? Zara met Silas's eyes. The human pilot, Silas Barrett. He saved my life. Understood. Docking in 3 minutes. The comm went silent. Zara slumped against the bulkhead. This is it, she said quietly. Once Ishira boards, when she sees us, sees the bond, there's no going back. Silas stood, crossed to her, took her hands. Then we show her the truth. We survived something that should have killed me. We formed a bond that shouldn't exist. That's not treason. That's evolution. Zara squeezed his hands. You really believe that? I believe in what we've built, in what we can become together. The docking clamps engaged, Zara straightened, but her hand found Silas's held tight. Together, she said. Together. The airlock cycled open. Commander Ashara entered first, flanked by 2 guards. She was taller than Zara. Her horns curved differently, but the resemblance was unmistakable. Those eyes swept the cockpit, took in the scene. Zara and Silas standing together, hands clasped, the scattered clothes, the marks on both their bodies, the way they stood close, protective of each other. Ishara's expression shifted through a dozen emotions: relief, confusion, shock, and finally understanding. No, she breathed. Zara, tell me you didn't. I did. My cycle triggered after the crash. He volunteered to help me through it. That's impossible. He should be dead. I know. No, you don't understand. You should be standing over his corpse right now. That's what the cycle does. Not this time, Silas said quietly. Ishara's attention snapped to him. She studied him with predatory intensity, looking for signs of injury, of the trauma that should have killed him. The bond, she said, voice hollow with shock. I can smell it on you both. You've actually bonded. 3 days, Zara said. He survived all 3 days. And the bond formed. Ishara, everything we thought we knew about our biology is wrong. Or everything we thought we knew about human biology is wrong. Ishara was still staring at Silas, like he was a ghost. This changes everything. I know, the council won't. They can't. Ishara stopped, regrouped. There will be factions that see this as a threat. The same factions that sabotaged your ship, we know. They already sent assassins. And we dealt with them. Ishara's lips quirked despite herself. Of course you did. She looked between them again, and Silas saw the moment she made her decision. The research station received your message. They're prepared to document everything, publish findings before anyone can suppress them. But you'll need protection getting there. Your offering? Zara asked carefully. You're my sister. And if what you've accomplished here is real, if humans in Ashkari can truly bond, Ishara met Silas's eyes directly, then maybe it's time our people stopped being alone. Silas felt Zara's relief through the bond, felt her fear transform into hope. Thank you, Zara said quietly. Don't thank me yet. The council will demand answers. Some will call for your exile. This won't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is, Silas said. Ishara actually smiled. I see why my sister chose you. The research station appeared on their scopes 6 hours later, a sprawling facility orbiting a gas giant. Dr. Yenna Thross met them at the dock, a slight alien with multiple eyes that blinked independently as she scanned them. Extraordinary, she muttered, reviewing the data. Your biochemistry has adapted to each other. Hormonal synchronization, enhanced immune responses, neural pathway development consistent with pair bonding species. Revolutionary, Silas offered. Unprecedented. The preliminary data alone will reshape xenobiology as we know it. Word spread quickly. Within days, their story was on every newsnet across known space. The human who survived an Ashkari mating cycle. The bond that shouldn't exist. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a threat. Political pressure mounted. The Ashkari Council demanded Zara's return. Human Diplomatic Corps wanted Silas for debriefing. Factions on both sides called for the research to be suppressed, but Dr. Thross published her findings before anyone could stop her. Hard data, medical scans, biochemical analysis, proof that humans and Ashkari were not just compatible, They were uniquely suited to each other in ways no other species pairing had achieved. The galaxy would never be the same. Silas stood at the observation window of their quarters, watching stars wheel past. Zara joined him, her warmth a comfort even before she touched him. "They're calling us the first," she said quietly. "First successful human Ashkari bond." "How does that feel?" "Terrifying. Exhilarating." "Right." He turned to face her, saw his own emotions reflected in her amber eyes. Through the bond, he felt her certainty, her hope, her love. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now we prove that what we have isn't an anomaly. We show them that this can work, that our peoples can build something together, and if they don't listen," Zara smiled, fierce and beautiful, "then we make them listen. Together." She kissed him, and through the bond he felt everything she couldn't say. 3 days on a hostile planet had forged them into something new. Not human, not Ashkari, but something greater than either. Outside the window, both Earth and the Ashkari homeworld were visible, distant points of light in the vast darkness. Soon, those worlds would be connected in ways neither had imagined, all because one human had volunteered to do the impossible. And survive.